Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm Pam Isfeld, the president of PAFSO, here with one brave participant, even though a whole bunch more of you were registered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my deck and record this so that other people can watch after, and hopefully have a chat with Marco, who's going to have tons of input into the strategic plan. And hopefully, maybe a few other people will join as we go. So, je vais parler en anglais, premièrement, mais si vous préférez de faire des commentaires ou poser des questions en français, soyez à l'aise. So, the purpose of this breakfast, oh, and also I want to remind everyone, I'm joining this breakfast, I'm chairing this meeting from the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people. And I encourage all of you who are watching and listening to think about where you're coming from and to, acknowledge the traditional peoples, traditional guardians and custodians of your territory, and think about what this means for the lives that we all live today. So what I'm going to do is this is my outline of what I'm going to talk about. I am going to just give a bit of context for our strategic plan, and talk about where we are up until now, what we've done so far. Then I'm going to run through the ideas that we've gathered so far for our force, faiblesse, opportunité et menace, which in English is SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Then I'm hoping to get some of your ideas on what you think our priorities should be for our plan that will come into effect for 25, 26, and 27 for PAFSO. Then I'll tell you about the next steps that we're going to take on the strategic plan. And then time for questions and comments. So Marco, feel free if you want to jump in at any point and ask a question, please feel free to do so. And then there'll be a spot for questions at the end. So back in 2019, we realized that PAFSO had never, in its then 60-year history, roughly, 59-year history, had never had a strategic review or a strategic plan. And so we decided that it was time to have one. And frankly, we were in kind of rough shape at that moment, especially on the governance side. We had just lost our long-serving executive director. He had left the organization. We had realized in the context of all of that that we did not have proper governance mechanisms set up, that executive committee did not understand its fiduciary duties. And, I take a lot of responsibility for that because I was PAFSO president at the time. And I had been president before in 2009 to 2011. And I have to say, we just did not really absorb the responsibilities that we had. We did not give the executive director and the staff sufficient input. Like I say, there was no strategic plan. The organization was extremely reactive. We had not reviewed our values, our mission, anything like that. Since we started, since the organization was founded, and it was time. It was way past time. So we launched a strategic review. And we hired an external consultant, Corn Ferry, to help us through that process. And then from that strategic review, we developed the strategic plan, which was adopted at the end of 2020 and was in effect 2021, 2022, 2023. So we're now in effectively a mini strategic review year. I'm going to propose as part of the plan, I guess I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here, but I'm going to propose that we write into the plan that we'll ask the AGM to adopt, that we have another external strategic review in 2019. We decided as part of our process that we did not need to hire an external company for this round, that we could just do a sort of a mini review of our own and go over where we were and everything and what we had done. But I think that every 10 years, it would be a good idea to get an outside consultancy in and really drill down on the performance of the organization. So some of the main impetus that really set, the discussion and everything off was the move to make the presidency of PAFSO a full-time position. So we had the pilot presidency where I started full-time on a pilot basis in 2019. And I was there to lead this strategic review process with Korn Ferry. And then in 2021, the membership voted to establish the presidency as part of PAFSO's organizational structure. So I was elected or claimed to a 3-year term as part of not the pilot presidency, but the regular presidency. So there'll be another, this term will be coming to an end next fall, 2025. So there will be elections and call for nomination in February 2025. So as part of the strategic review, we identified our mission, our vision, and our values, and we incorporated those into the Constitution. When we voted on the full-time presidency, we also had to amend the Constitution and took the opportunity to establish those. So, and we believe that, that mission, those missions, those items have not changed. So our mission to represent the interests of PAFSO members by acting as their bargaining agent, protecting the status and standards of their profession, maintaining and promoting the effective functioning of the Foreign Service, and formulating and expressing the collective views of the members on matters affecting them. Values, we pursue our mission in accordance with values of equality, diversity, fairness, professionalism, respect, transparency, and good governance. And our vision is that PAFSO is a well-governed, highly trusted, effective, and modern organization with strong relationships with members, staff, and stakeholders. Through effective collective bargaining, labor relations services, and advocacy, outreach, and engagement, we promote and strengthen Canada's professional foreign service and counter, sorry, there's a 2 in there, any threat of its erosion. So from that, in our strategic review process, we identified 3 strategic priorities. And we've agreed as part of our planning process that we're going to keep these rough baskets, although I think I'm going to propose that we change the names of them slightly in the plan because it's a little bit confusing. So promotion and protection of the professional foreign service, to say that 3 times fast, is roughly the more hardcore representation stuff. Representation, negotiating the collective agreement, co-developing the foreign service directives, that kind of thing. I think in that part, it's the more sort of reactive stuff in a way, even though, you do have a concrete collective agreement to advocate for, but it's the kind of stuff that comes to us whether we like it or not. And so I'm thinking, just thinking out loud in the context of this meeting, that I think I would like to change the name of that basket to, represent and protect, something like that, to make it a little bit clearer to people when they see that, what that is. Advocacy and engagement, that is the more external, outward-looking stuff. That is, promoting the image of the Foreign Service, engaging with MPs and other people, other people who can help us, promoting the image, ensuring that people understand who we are, like us, and, want to help us. And then the governance and organizational renewal, that's the stuff that I was talking about before, where frankly, certainly for the first couple of years of the plan, I mean, we've been doing a lot more on advocacy since January 2023, when we hired our advocacy and stakeholder relations officer and got that position in part of the organization. But the first couple of years of the strategic plan, I would say that the governance and organizational renewal portion took up probably more than half my time. Hiring a new executive director, developing a framework for managing them, ensuring that executive committee is trained and understands fiduciary duties, ensuring that there is a clear understanding on the part of the staff organization how authority flows, all of those kinds of things, developing all of our terms of reference and code of conduct. And I'm happy to report that I think has mostly the big tasks involved in that have mostly been completed. There always will be a requirement to pay attention to that, but I would say in an ideal operation, the that should be about maybe 20% of the organization's time. It should be more of a maintenance function than a carving out function. And I think that we're pretty much there. I think that we've got that kind of set. So part of what we've been talking about is, okay, we've got to look at, where we are now, and what we see as our strengths and weaknesses. Marco, before I go on, did you want to ask any questions? Did you have any comments that you want to bring up? You don't have to. So, oh, there you
All good for now. Thank you.
go. Okay, thanks, Marco. Um, so what we've been doing is we've been meeting as XCOM to discuss roughly these three pillars, one by one. And for each one, we've done a SWOT analysis. And then we've got together, we've distilled it down to, some of the same things keep coming up because these three pillars, I mean, and the reason they were pillars was frankly because I was unable to execute my vision on the document I wanted to give everyone, which was not three pillars necessarily, but three gears. Because all of these things they're interrelated, and one kind of drives the other. And by extension, one can slow down the other. Um, and so of course, when we were talking about our strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, some of the things are common, and so we distilled it down to a rough sort of set of the main things that were coming up. While we were doing that, I mean, we had the benefit of a number of inputs. We have the results of the triennial review, which we're still going through a little bit. We're still drilling down on what those mean, but we have the top level results and a big document to look at. We also had the questionnaire that we did back in February on harassment and discrimination, especially linked to the conflicts that are going on, particularly the Israel-Hamas conflict. We did some polling. We did our first public polling of the to get a baseline on how we're seen by the Canadian public. And I'm kind of proud of that one, I have to say, because that's the first time we've ever done that. We always, anytime we get a little bit, bullshy or stand up for ourselves, there's always people in the media, people in senior management, and quite frankly, sometimes people in our own membership who are like, shut up, shut up, shut up, be quiet. You're seen as privileged. We're seen as privileged. Nobody likes that. Nobody likes public servants. Nobody likes foreign service officers. There's no understanding of what we do. There's little support among the Canadian public. And I have to say, our results were much, much better than I thought. I was honestly expecting to see results for public support among people who didn't know much about us in the single digits. And our support is roughly equivalent to other professional groups, which is great among the public, and then quite among people who previously knew about us, quite high in I think one measure, and I can't remember which one it was close to 80% of people who knew about us, and that is much much better than I expected, and also gives us a baseline for where it makes sense to intervene. But I came away from that poll in particular feeling really happy about the possibility that we can really design effective interventions that will make a difference for us. So that's important. So among our strengths, so we look at all of this when we discuss the SWOT, but among our strengths that we identified for all the pillars was some of it is the willingness to set priorities in the strategic plan. We never had that before. And we found that, in some ways, I mean, one of the mistakes, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, that we did make in this first plan was we did drill down a little bit too much into the detail. A lot of us were used to doing what we call strategic planning in the context of our divisions or our missions or so on. But that's not really strategic planning, right? Like that's operational planning. The strategic plan is the big plan that's set by government. It's the cabinet plan. That's the strategic plan that everyone has to implement. And one of the reasons that, a lot of strategic plans end up in a drawer is that they're too detailed. They're too prescriptive. And, if something kind of goes off the rails, like COVID, for example, and you can't do some of the things that you said you were going to do, well, people start feeling like, oh my God, the plan is a bust and it's not useful. But what we found was that just having had that discussion, having that document that set out priorities, educating the membership and others that, this is the direction I'm going in. This is what you can expect from us, and this is what we can expect for ourselves to focus on was really good for us. So that willingness to set priorities is a strength. We're financially healthy. We have a good budget. We have a membership that we have a stream of income from our members. We get dues from everybody. We also have revised some of our investment strategy. So we know to take advantage of high interest rates. We've got some layered GICs going, as well as our more regular investments. And so we're in a healthy position. And so we have money available to do what we need to do. We have no intention of spending it, in a profligate fashion, but we can do what we need to do. We've got strong working relationship with management, both at Treasury Board and at Global Affairs and IRCC, and that helps. I mean, we're I think not seen as a group that seeks confrontation unnecessarily and tries to cooperate where we can, but at the same time they know we're not afraid of confrontation either. We've got good relationships with the National Joint Council and the other members, the other unions and the employer organizations that are on the Joint Council. We've got a strong professional staff and a strong executive committee. We have good provisions in our collective agreement. In particular, not this last time, but the time before, we got a health and safety clause for the first time ever. We had not had that as part of the FS agreement, much to my shock when we all realized this. So we got that in there, and that is helping us a lot. I mentioned our data-driven approach. That's making planning and making operating easier. We have a clear governance structure with the authorities and the delegations spelled out in the Constitution. Um, we have the integration of the labor relations and the professional association functions is a lot better than it was. I mean, before it was really, really not professional association stuff was sort of not seen really as something that was really serious. And it seemed to me it was we somebody comes to us and we look at the collective agreement and we see if we can help them from the collective agreement. And if not, not much we can do. And things like conferences, breakfast, training, mentoring, the Deborah Chatzis Fellowship, the PAFSO Indigenous Mentorship Initiative, those were not previously seen. They were kind of seen as optional and not really linked to the goals of the organization. So those are some of the strengths. I mean, I guess, to toot my own horn, I think we should also put in there that, having a full-time president, a position for a serving member, who can advocate in real terms on the real life of foreign service officers. I think that's also a strength. Um, Marco, did you have anything? Do you want to comment or add on the strength? And I see we have another participant. Um, Hold on, I'm just gonna see if I can pounce on this poor person. Oh, okay. I won't say your name just in case you do not want to join us as a panelist, but welcome. And you are one of two participants. So we're going through our thing. And if you would like to talk, you are extremely welcome along with Marco. Marco, did you have any comments, questions about the strengths? Anything to add? No, I'm not seeing anybody. Okay. Um, at any point, please feel free if you want me to if you want me to stop and answer a question. Um, so our weaknesses, and of course, it's always easier to be critical. So I'm trying to watch and make sure that these weaknesses are not, too much longer than the others, so people don't get discouraged. We do find that sometimes we have a hard time attracting people, in particular to XCOM. We've got a ways to go. We could be more diverse. And that is a bit of an issue in understanding different member communities. For example, on the questionnaire on the harassment and discrimination, the good news was that 95% of members said that they didn't have an issue, but 5% did, which is a significant number of people. And if you looked at female visible minorities, then it jumped to 14%. So clearly, there are some things that we need to look at, um, and that we can do better in understanding. So we want to work on that. The service model orientation and a limited theory of change. I mean, we are moving more towards an advocacy model, but there still is a little bit sometimes of, you know, okay, is this in the idea of from both members and from XCOM and staff that okay, the model is the member has a problem, goes to, the PAFSO window, says, hey, I have a problem. Somebody looks and says, yes, we can help you. This is what we do. Here you go, you know, you're welcome on your way. And what we would like is to move towards a more kind of an interest-based rather than entitlement-based kind of engagement from our members, and a broader sense of that, from the XCOM and staff as well. More of a sense of like, okay, what can we do to help this person with their employment related problem? As opposed to, well, that's not the collective agreement, that's not the FSD, that's not what the FSD says. There's not much that we can do. So we want to start thinking about how we can look at things from that perspective. There's three models, basically theories of change in the union framework, right, that most people look at. There's the service model, the advocacy and engagement model, and then there's the mobilization model, which is more like what you see maybe with PSAC or QP, some of those unions that are really out there, that are politically active, that get involved in all kinds of social causes and so on behalf of their members. I don't think personally the mobilization model is um, realistic really for PAFSO, given our restrictions on being representatives of the government, being agents, our nonpartisan and apolitical stance, and the type of members that we have. But I am open to hearing otherwise, and that's what this process is about. Some of our stakeholders don't understand us or really know, what the FS group does, what PAFSO does. We don't have some of the mechanisms for collective action that other unions do. For example, we don't have shop stewards. So, that can be an issue in getting things out to the sort of grassroots level, although we do have some things, Facebook, the Facebook group, peer run Facebook group, and some of those other things. We've noticed that there really seems to be an issue sometimes in understanding what's going on at IRCC and their issues and how different they are from those at Global Affairs Canada. And that's something that we want to address. I mean, we lost Randy Orr, our long-serving PAFSO executive committee member who passed away a couple of years ago. And he was really, he was very established at IRCC with both the members and with, the management components that he needed to deal with. And we're still feeling that lack. We've got great representatives at IRCC, but, they're also dealing with work from home and, people being more fragmented. And that's something that we need to address. We have to say, it is a weakness, although not necessarily one that we could do. Maybe this should be under the threats that we do have limited ability to intervene in issues outside the collective bargaining agreement or legislation. Sometimes there are some things where we're looking at, influence and advocate rather than a hard mechanism. And we have to be honest with ourselves and with our members on some of that. Does anybody have any more? Um, any comments on the weaknesses or um, anything to add? No? Going once, twice, three times? Okay. Opportunities. So some of these, I was talking to somebody the other day who was like, well, I'm not sure that the new collective agreement is an opportunity. I mean, we have to do it anyway. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, we do have to do it, but it also is an opportunity to promote our interests, to get some of the things in that we would like to see in, to get, certainly a good economic increase for everyone. Also to do some promotion outside, who are the FS and why are they asking for these different things. We do have the cyclical review is ongoing, and we have a number of proposals in there that reflect different concerns. And also the employer side is putting forward a number of interesting proposals, some of which we actually like, and they like some of ours. So that gives an opportunity to address some of the longstanding issues. High profile international events. Some of this sounds a bit morbid, but when there is a war, a natural disaster, something going on, I mean, that's when people look overseas and look at Canada's network and look at foreign service officers and see, how valuable we are. During COVID, the fact that people were organizing evacuation flights for Canadians and helping to source masks and medical supplies and vaccines. I mean, those kinds of things resonate with the public and in government. Sad to say, the MSH healthcare abroad and the health and safety issues, those also resonate with members in the public. I mean, I'm sad that we have this opportunity, frankly, but it's something that we can use to show, hey, this is what we do, why we're valuable, why we need to be treated properly. Next year also is the 60th anniversary of PAFSO as a professional association. 2 years later is the anniversary of PAFSO as a bargaining agent when it got its bargaining ticket. So we're going to be doing some activities and events to commemorate that. We're going to relaunch the Foreign Service Officer of the Year Award. We're working on a book that will showcase, what PAFSO is, what the FS are, what we do, to try to, promote our history and what we've done, and also to give interested people who want to know, hey, I'd like to be a foreign service officer. What is it about? Who are you guys and what do you do? And there isn't really an accessible book that addresses that. So we're planning to put something together to address that. And I think that will be a useful tool for us and an opportunity to get out and engage with media and people who in a positive way on some of our stories. Anybody, any comments, questions about the opportunities? No? Okay. Threats. So one that kept coming up over and over again, which is pretty clear, is a possible change to a less labor-friendly government. We're looking at the Canadian political environment. Just because we are, nonpartisan and apolitical doesn't mean that we don't interact with the political level, whoever they are, and that we're not aware of what's going on in the environment. And, there is a possibility that we may have a change to a government that, has a track record of cutting and being harder to deal with. So we got to be ready for that. I know there is a lot of member frustration over issues that are outside our control, inflation, the healthcare. I mean, in Canada, the deterioration in provincial healthcare, public healthcare, all those kinds of things. That growing gulf between GAC and IRCC members, I heard about it over and over again. Um, Disagreement over PAFSO's role. What does protecting members' interests mean in 2024? Some members were pushing for us to do a statement on the Israel-Hamas thing. And we said, no, we do not do those kinds of statements because we have members working, on all sides of these conflicts and, including in directly in the affected places. And we would really be failing in our job if we did anything that made their jobs harder, that called their professionalism or their ability to function in an unbiased manner on behalf of, the government, which is our job, into question. So we're not going to do that. But, part of our mandate is to advance the interests of members on things that affect them. And there is, I think, an argument that, hey, this affects us. So, what does that mean? I think we need to get our minds around that. There are a number of competing interests and priorities. I mean, we have different, groups among the membership with different identities. And sometimes, people looking for accommodation, for example, that might affect someone else, competing needs. Um, this one I call government ineffectiveness, which is, you see it with MSH, for example. We just filed a human rights complaint because we can't seem to get them to to really solve this problem. And, what we get when we push is, well, what do you want us to do about it? We're not the company. I'm like, oh, yeah, we are still responsible and you still have to figure it out. And, look at Phoenix. I mean, there seems to really be a feeling that, you know, what are we going to do? And we're 10 years later. I mean, that's not, it's really just not, it's really not good enough. There are a lot of the mechanisms, our labor relations mechanisms, are really overburdened. And I'm not sure if some of that is a strategy, but what that means is that it can take years to get cases heard and to get things resolved. And, that's, I think, a threat to, the plan. Advancing members' interests is, keeping people focused and keeping people willing to do things when there may not be decisions until years later. I would encourage people to do it because getting decisions can result in change. And sadly, they're not always willing to take action without those decisions. And we're going to keep pushing them. But that I feel like it's a threat to getting done what we want to get done. Any comments or questions
Hi,
about?
Pam. Um, I think Nadej might need to be a panelist to make a comment or question.
Oh, so I
Oh,
did. I think I did offer to make her a panelist, and she may
oh,
not
okay.
want to be. I did it
Okay.
again just in case.
Sounds
Um,
good. I was imagining she's trying to say something and there's no way.
uh, no, and Nadej, if you do want to say something, there's also the Q&A box that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. You can always type something in there if you want. Um, but Marco, did you have any comments about the threats or the
No,
SWAT? No.
no, not the threats. I mean, I was gonna save it for the end. I had some comments about diversity and recruitment and representation and reaching various audiences, but maybe we can have a chat at the end. I'll let you go through it.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great. So basically, this is supposed to be timelines, probability, and impact of our different our different things. So basically, I mean, that was how we arrived at the items that are on our list. I mean, honestly, I think the highest impact that we have to look at is the possibility of a change of government. Because that will affect how we may want to frame issues. We I think we have a bit of a window right now to maybe, get get some action on things that people may not want around during a possible election period. But then we're also going to have to think about how we conduct ourselves during an election. I mean, we can't we you know we're not we so what am I trying to say? We're not going to want to do things that are sort of seen as you know attacking anyone or during a campaign, or anything that could put our members' nonpartisanship at into question. So we need to think about the timing of that and the impact of the different things that we'll do. The collective agreement, we're going to need to choose a dispute resolution mechanism for the next collective agreement, and that XCOM has the authority in the Constitution to make that decision, but I would intend to take that out for much broader specific consultation with the members, more like closer to the time, because depending what's going on, we may or may not want to maintain the ability to strike if we wanted to. And that's got to be part of our planning and our consideration. And we have to build up to all this, right? Like over the next year, we have an opportunity to kind of place ourselves in the most beneficial position to be dealing with some of these things, build up our credibility, build up our public support, all of those things. I'm hoping, like I said, to get the governance and operations part of the organization down to about 20-25% of our time. It's more of a maintenance kind of function. And yeah, beyond that, I mean, I would like to see us become more proactive. Like right now, I think we're still a little bit reactive, and that kind of goes with moving that theory of change, that service model, that orientation from the service model to more of the advocacy model. Um, but other than that, I think we're on a pretty good track. I think that we have a clear sense of who we are and what we need and where we would like to go. And I'm looking forward to hearing what people think about the plan. And honestly, I think that the real benefit of a plan is having a plan, having that structure, having that agreement on the broad things that you can keep coming back to. I mean, the operational plans and so on, a lot of those will be the domain of the staff. That come up with the step by step what the organization is gonna do. And those need to be flexible in the moment, but if we can agree on our sort of broad directions, I think it'll really be to our benefit. Um, so next steps, just to run through them, I'm going to have a couple more consultation sessions. Between last one is on the 17th of July. The executive committee and along with the staff will have a final planning session on the 18th of July to develop the outline. The sort of bullet point version of the plan. I'm going to take holidays after that, so I'm going to put the draft out to the membership with my message, and invite people to make comments, and give us comments on the draft while I'm away. Then we'll prepare the draft. I'll prepare the draft plan for the discussion with the XCOM on the 15th of August. If depending what they think of me, of what we've proposed to them, there may be some additional consultations for the revision. And then on the 18th of September, the XCOM will need to approve the draft plan, still a draft at that point, to go into the AGM package for approval by the AGM at the meeting on the 21st of October. I've set up, and I'll put this in, I'll see if I can put this in the chat. So in case you guys want to click on it, I've set up this little Survey Monkey thing. And where can I show chat panel? Here we are. I'm going to put this in the chat. So I've set up this little this SurveyMonkey form so that you can oh no, what am I doing? No, it won't let me type. It won't let me put it in here. If you would like to send me your comments on this thing, you can send me an email and I can send you the SurveyMonkey form. Or you can just send me an email and tell me what you think if you don't want to talk about it now. So any questions, comments? If you guys don't mind, what I can do is I will stop the recording. Unless, Marco, you want to be on the record with your comments, but this just to give everybody a quick chance to talk about stuff that's not on the thing. So merci beaucoup. And to anybody who is watching this, I will put this SurveyMonkey form in the comments on the YouTube video so you can see it. And you can fill it in if you like. Okay, so here we are.